you.
Well, thank you, Dave. We're on the home stretch. This is going to go fairly quick. I'll just say a little bit about Project A4 and then let John say a little bit about the other projects. These are all projects, including A4, that are not outgrowths necessarily of kind of some of these previous STAR grants. This is a project we've been a little slow getting going because we had a little bit of confusion where we year one or year two start, and then with the kind of time that we got our contract, we missed out 1 year's graduate student kind of recruiting cycle. So we're getting started on this. But the work I'm going to tell you about is actually an outgrowth of past work one of my colleagues at the University of Nebraska has done, Chicharandran Ray. He's worked with Louisville, Kentucky, some European utilities on river bank filtration or natural filtration. Also something that we have a number of communities in Nebraska that are already doing, many of them more mid-sized to larger. I see Chris in Kearney, Nebraska uses forms of this. So again, as I said, we're looking at how to use soil and aquifer material in riverbanks and beneath it as a filtration material to remove turbidity, indicator organisms and pathogens. And a target utility are clearly those near surface water, those that may have appropriate aquifer material for the natural filtration, and often, as Orrin mentioned, groundwater is often used by so many communities where maybe they don't have another groundwater that's really appropriate. There's a number of cases where they may not have a local groundwater that can get sufficient water, or other cases where it's just fairly contaminated, and this may be a better choice. So we're trying to aim this more for the implementation and piloting kind of category. And again, riverbank filtration, many of you may be familiar, but really the concept, we're going to put a well relatively close to a river. This can really vary depending upon the location. We could be looking at 20, 30 meters, could be looking at 100 meters away, and using just the natural filtration, using the in situ biodegradation, absorption, chemical precipitation, and redox reactions that occur as the water flows from the river into that well, realizing we may also get some flow in from other formations. Just a brief overview from an advantage and disadvantage standpoint. Clearly, versus going to more complex treatment, this could reduce operating as well as capital costs, and hopefully is going to be fairly effective versus at least surface water in removing particulate, a number of biodegradable compounds, reduce the biological component. Another potential advantage, or one advantage often seen, is the buffering of fluctuations, at least compared to a surface water. Some limitations, obviously, riverbed clogging, and there will be some increase depending upon the situation in hardness, ammonium, dissolved iron, and manganese. Again, kind of varies upon the situation. As well as there may be a few concerns with sulfur compounds in specific situations. As far as what we're trying to do, we're trying to examine two utilities, looking at how is the water quality going to be improved, at least compared to surface water, by using riverbank filtration, as well as particularly looking at some of the things of low flow periods, spring runoff, trying to evaluate the range that we may see in flow systems, as well as just trying to look at DBP formation potential and some of those issues. As far as what we're doing for project design, this is something we've just finally gotten started, and we're gathering data on the well construction, locations. Have two communities we're working with, Fairbury, Nebraska, that's off of the Little Blue River, and Auburn, Nebraska, off the Little Nemaha River, and you can see some pictures of some nice turbid water in the rivers. You get a little idea of what we're looking at in those areas. Pardon?
It's not New England.
It's not New England, no, that is right. And we're collecting field measurements, looking at DO, pH, turbidity, specific conductivity, or conductance. Also looking at the lab, looking at nitrate, nitrite, dissolved organic carbon, TOC, UV. Also getting stable isotopes, trying to get a sense of water age, and looking at that every month, because we realize that turns out to be fairly important here in trying to understand what's happening. We're going to be looking at particularly trihalomethanes, looking at that formation potential, comparing both the surface water, but also particularly what's going on with the well water, as well as looking at indicator bacteria. And to just kind of wrap up, this is something we've started here about 4 weeks ago, collecting samples, and we'll be doing for 2 years. So obviously we have no completed or scheduled outputs, but we're anticipating pulling together some white papers, getting some information out. Also, we're particularly interested also as we get some data in doing a webinar. Dr. Ray has been putting together educational materials from his past work on this and hoping we can take our case studies with small systems to try to put that into a small systems context. So that's a quick overview to get us to lunch, I guess.
So that's it.